I looked at myself in the mirror yesterday and said, "Hey, handsome, do you think getting your mouth washed out with the Sydney Sweeney bathwater soap is still technically a punishment?" And then I thought of a much more relevant question to this video, which was, can I really review a movie that came out last week instead of the new Karate Kid movie that came out this week that neither of my children wanted to see? Shockingly, the answer was a resounding, I can do whatever I want. So, yes. Mission Impossible 8. That's right, the eighth movie in the Mission Impossible franchise that started all the way back in 1996 comes to a satisfying end after 29 years with one of the best Mission Impossible movies of all the 8 films in the franchise. But unfortunately, the newest one, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, is a 2-hour film with a 49-minute long Simpsons-esque clip show shown between the trailers and the actual start of the last Mission Impossible movie. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to ponder this for a moment. Have we all been eating popcorn wrong our entire lives, and Tom Cruise is the only human alive who actually eats popcorn the right way? Wait a second, what does that say? This message will self-destruct in 5. No, wait.
I love my popcorn.
It's me, Daddy Possible, your third reckoning. Only your third, not bad. And I am here with a new, not blown up computer to talk about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, the finale in the Mission Impossible film franchise starring Tom Cruise, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, and Haley Atwell. The film is, of course, written by Eric Gendrestrin, totally messed up that name, and Christopher McQuarrie, with Christopher McQuarrie also directing the film. Now, I briefly mentioned it in that hilarious opening, but this is potentially my third or fourth favorite film in the Mission Impossible franchise that could have potentially been in the top 2 if I didn't have a giant Matt Lauer-sized issue with this movie.
Do you understand that?
The difference is, this was
no,
not
Matt,
against
Matt,
her
I'm
will,
ask-
though.
Matt,
But
I'm
this
ask-
wasn't
Matt, I'm
against
asking you a
Brooke's will.
question. Matt, I'm asking you a question.
I understand there's abuse of all of these things.
No, you see, here's the problem. You don't know the history of psychiatry. I do.
The movie starts with a flashback, which is fine, right? Everybody loves a good flashback. But then, like jumping on Oprah's couch, it never ends. It just keeps happening over and over and over again.
17 magazine. Yes!
Flashback after flashback, clips after clips. We get a flashback for something we just saw in this movie less than 5 minutes previous. Then Tom Cruise fights another AI enemy for what feels like the 10th movie in a row where AI is Tom Cruise's enemy. If the least, but somehow, most human person on the planet is telling us that AI is dangerous, we should probably listen to him, because no matter how weird or creepy you find Tom Cruise, he is against AI, and much, much creepier people like, I don't know, Elon Musk and the Zuck are for it. Which creature from space are you going to trust on this issue? One of them made Facebook. One of them made Edge of Tomorrow. I rest my case, Your Honor. Almost an hour into this movie, I was saying to myself, uh-oh, Captain. Yes, I call myself Captain when I'm addressing myself. Why is that weird now? I said, Captain, is this what this movie is going to be? Flashbacks and clips? Because so far the only action scene has been a close-up of Haley Atwell's face as we just hear noises of Tom Cruise fighting 2 people, and then the scene ends and we see the aftermath of the fight and the noises, and it's just Tom Cruise standing over 2 guys he just killed with a butcher knife. This is the good guy of the movie. So that was a weird choice. Made even weirder by the fact that Haley Atwell is just horrified at what she has just seen, and then Tom Cruise plays it off like a joke, and then the movie starts doing like this bit with the whole thing. That part didn't work for me on literally any level, and that's really the low point of the movie for me until almost immediately after that. Ethan Hunt comes face to face with the entity, the AI villain of the film, who can communicate directly with Hunt via like a tech casket is the best way to describe it. Hunt puts on a Doctor Doom looking mask. Weird timing to undercut the Fantastic Floor like that, but whatever. I think I just called him the Fantastic Floor. And then Ethan Hunt talks to the entity for what feels like an eternity, and you will never guess what the entity shows him. Clips, flashbacks. Shocking, I know. But the AI also shows him images that the AI could never have been in a position to capture, but that's one of those things where it's a movie. I get it. I hate nitpick movie people, the ones who just go, why didn't they just do this? Why did that happen? And then it's just like, because it's a movie and things need to happen for it to be a movie. Like, that's why. So finally, the actual Mission Impossible movie starts and the actual mission of the movie starts. And then the plot is finally rolling. An hour into the movie, an hour, and we find out that Ethan has to go get this thing on a sunken submarine and then take it to a server room, and they all connect. And it is, the 8th time we're doing this, right? So we're finally in a Mission Impossible movie. We get introduced to Angela Bassett as not my president. I voted for Thomas J. Whitmore for the, 20th year in a row. Then we get a heartwarming scene where Ethan and Luther have to say goodbye to each other. The only two people to be there since day one of the Mission Impossible franchise, until we get the welcome return of Rolf Saxon as William Donlow, who gets redemption for Ethan inadvertently ruining his career in Mission Impossible 1. And then Donlow just becomes part of the team and kind of steals being the heart of the movie from the now deceased Luther character. He was a welcome addition, him and his wife. As the movie then progresses, we then get just scene-stealing performances. It feels like one after another by Hannah Waddingham, Tramel Tillman, and the aforementioned Rolf Saxon. Tramel Tillman burst onto this movie's screen with a line delivered so amazingly, so rich and full of flavor, you could drizzle it on pancakes.
You must be Captain Bledsoe.
And you must be out of your mind.
And then Tillman just takes over a 20-minute portion of the movie in what can only be described as the best way possible. As far as the movie on a grander scale, the plot is messy. The editing is weird. The other villains of the movie besides the entity are Gabriel, who is supposed to be the main villain of this movie, who pretty much this entire time I completely forgot about, which says everything you need to know about him in this movie. And then we also have the president's cabinet as adversaries. The president is on the side of Hunt, but the rest of the cabinet members are against him and just keep repeating that he is dangerous and won't complete the mission, despite him completing all the previous missions and saving countless people and the world a minimum of, 7 other times in the course of 29 years? But, and a big but, you don't go, or at least I don't go, to Mission Impossible movies for any of the things I mentioned before, right? Any of the things I've said so far in this video. You go for the stunts and the set pieces. And this movie has 2 of the best action set pieces I have ever seen in my entire life. That's not hyperbole. I don't get why people are shitting so hard on this movie when the last hour of this film has these 2 action set pieces in them. The first one being Ethan Hunt having to get this MacGuffin computer thing from the sunken submarine we saw blow itself up last movie that is now teetering on the edge of an undersea cliff, a movie trope I love and will never get tired of. I am pro undersea sea cliffs. So Hunt enters the sunken submarine, and what proceeds to happen is what felt like a half-hour, almost completely silent maze run with Ethan Hunt working his way through the sunken submarine filled with nukes that then starts slowly rolling, moving Ethan, the missiles, and water around, creating one of the most heart pumping, tense movie scenes I can ever remember watching. I went to see this with my 13-year-old, and he and I were losing our collected minds at this entire sequence. It was, dare I say, it was a hoot. And then that perfect action set piece is then one upped by one of, I mean, the most amazing and frankly incredible sequences ever captured in the history of film. Ethan Hunt is chasing Gabriel, and they end up on two basically analog stunt planes. And then Tom Cruise just proceeds to do the craziest stunt show in the sky you have ever seen, or probably ever will see in your life. I have no idea how they filmed this, and I pray to the movie gods that we eventually get a behind the scenes featurette on this scene like we got for the motorcycle jump for that Mission Impossible film a couple years ago. Because there are parts of this scene that make you go, oh, we're just about to see Tom Cruise die right here. And then he doesn't. The most impossible thing to happen in all the Mission Impossible movies is that Tom Cruise survived them. Now, the last 2 hours of this movie erased almost all the issues I had with the first hour of the movie. I actually kind of love the ending. I'm really happy they didn't James Bond Ethan Hunt. And if this really is the last Mission Impossible movie, I think they went out with a hell of a bang. It never reached the heights of Fallout or some of the other Mission Impossible films. The final two action scenes did, but the plot never got to the gold standard that some of the previous films reached. So, no, the film wasn't perfect, but in my eyes, I wasn't expecting it to be. I had fun. I was entertained. So, thumbs up.
I love my popcorn.